skies like satellites. With eyes like hawks, we roam the air. And should you lose your wings, I'll stop the fall. I won't let you break. I'll stop the fall. The surface can wait. Sometimes you need a friend stuck in a tangled web. Someone to find your way when misery clouds your head. To dry your eyes, we'll touch the skies like satellites. With eyes like hawks, we roam the air. And should you lose your wings, I'll stop the fall. I won't let you break. I'll stop the fall. The surface can wait. You miss your step, run out of breath. I'll be the one to guide you. With ice like hawks, we roam the air. Should you lose your wings, I'll stop the fall. I'll stop the fall. I won't let you break. I'll stop the fall. I'll stop. The surface can wait. You miss your step, run out of breath. I'll be the one to guide you.
は片方だけなのかな。
男の子じゃあさ、ママついて。いや、上も飲む。これ何？やだ。忘れた。これがあったね。ネジが固まったね。
ちょっとね、ちょっと助けて。どう？うん。